Hi card making friends, it's Sandy here. In today's video, I'm sharing how I like to stitch these pretty flower dies from Spellbinders Stitch Die of the Month Club for November. It's called Grand Stitched Blooms, and there are beautiful dies. I also have a new color combo for you today, a mixture of blues, purples, and greens that I'm sure you're going to love. I've already cut out all the dies that I need to create two flowers. I've done them in a variety of colors, Spellbinders Cardstock, Purple Mist, Lilac Blossom, Royal Amethyst, Raindrop for the background, and some brushed gold. So starting off, you want to take something pokey and you want to make sure that all of the stitching lines are open, all the little dots. They get all over the place. I have them even stuck on my dog's foot. I'm going to start by doing a little bit of ink blending to add some shadows. I'm starting at the bottom of the smallest piece of the flower. I'm adding some Distressed Oxide ink in Wilted Violet. And I'm trying to give you a close-up of that, waiting for my camera to zoom in. There you go. Then I'm going to take the front flower, which is the medium purple, and I'm doing the same thing, pulling it about halfway up. And this is going to add a nice contrast once we get the flowers all put together. The purple one in the background is already very dark and there's no ink that'll show up on it, so don't worry about it. For the leaves, I'm switching over to Evergreen Bow Distressed Oxide ink spray and using a small brush to add a small amount of the green to the bottom of the leaves. I'm zooming in for you there. And when we're zoomed in like this, you can even see the little lines that are etched into the pieces when you die cut, and they show you which way to stitch your images. Okay, we're going to be working with DMC metallic thread. This is from Spellbinders. It comes in a package of 2, or I think you can get 4. If you got the Stitched Christmas set, and you ordered the additional stitch packaging, it came in there along with some lovely needles that are the perfect size for doing this stitching. This is a great kit, by the way. I can't remember if it's still available, but if it is, it has a ton of stuff in it for stitching. And we're going to be playing with these needles today. You need some tape, you need a sharp pair of scissors, you need gold thread, a pin cushion. I got this one in Chinatown when I was about 14 years old and I'm still using it. Okay, let's get ready and let's do some stitching. I've got 2 pieces I'm going to share with you today. I'm going to do one of the flower pieces and one of the leaf pieces, and I'm going up close. We're going to get right in here and I'm going to show you how I like to stitch. I start with a long piece of thread. Sorry, I'm just waiting for my camera to zoom in here. It will do eventually. There we go. I tie a knot in the end of my thread. I also take a piece of tape and the Spellbinder scissors and I cut it into 4 little pieces. I love these Spellbinder scissors because nothing sticks to them. They are awesome and they're super, super sturdy. Okay, I'm setting those aside. I'm just placing them on my glass board just off camera so that they're easily accessible. Here I'm showing off the scissors. These things are awesome. If you need a pair of scissors, these are the ones. Hands down. Okay, back to stitching. I have my needle. I'm going to start in the center at the bottom of this little piece of the flower, and you'll see the little direction lines on the piece of cardstock. It's etched in when you die cut it. You're going to take a piece of that tape and you're going to secure the thread on the back with a knot. And the reason I add a knot is if you don't, the thread can easily slip on the tape. The knot kind of stops it from doing that. Okay, so we're going to start on the left-hand side and I'm going to pull the stitch all the way through, and then you'll see I secure it on the back with my finger. And I hold it there while I'm doing the next stitch because that holds it taut for me. Okay? And I'm doing this in real time. So you hold on to that, then you're coming back through the hole at the bottom and you're going into the next hole on the left-hand side, again pulling the thread all the way through and then securing it with your finger on the back to keep it taut. You don't want loose threads, they look kind of funky. You want them nice and taut so that they're straight up and down and they provide a nice detail all the way across your petal. Okay, so I'm just carrying on with my stitching. And what I'm doing is I'm pulling it at the back and just popping it underneath the cardstock so that my finger is securing it. And really, this doesn't take very long. You see that I'm working quite quickly, and I haven't sped this up. Again, back at the bottom, up through the top, and we just have 3 more to finish. Okay, I'm moving my finger over so that I can hold on to the newest thread because the rest are all secure now. And carrying on, pulling that thread to the back. Hold your fingers if you start to get a knot in your thread, and that does happen with the metallics. They twist quite a bit, so if you hold your fingers like that, it will loosely let out any thread that looks like it's going to get loopy and tie into a knot, because they're a mess to try and untie. Okay, so now I'm going to flip this over to the back. Again, I'm holding on to that loose tail because I want that last stitch to be nice and tight as well, and I'm creating a loop knot on the back by going through a bunch of the stitching and then up through the circle that I create like that and tying it off. And I do that twice, and I try and not overlap my knots on the back because that will make it extremely thick and very hard to glue down flat. So you're going to take your second piece of tape and you're going to secure the tail of that last knot on the back. And at this point, if you have any tape hanging over, you want to trim that off. Okay, and that's going to be the bottom front of the flower. So here's all the pieces for the flowers that I've created for today. There's 4 for each flower, and there's 3 shades of purple and then that little highlight of gold. And that just helps to pull the gold from the thread across the flower and make it uniform. Okay, so now I'm going to stitch one of the leaves. So we're going to start again with a long piece of thread. And I like to string my needle like this. I pull the thread up like this, hold it in place, use the needle to pinch the thread directly in half, hold it very tightly with my finger and my thumb on the left-hand side, and then push it through the eye of the needle. It's quite easy. Now I've bent that piece when I was threading it, so I use that end to tie the knot. That way that bent thread is not going to get in the way of my stitching and cause a knot where I don't want it. Okay, so I want to make a tail with the end that has a knot in it. And this one has quite a long string, so I'm going to cut part of that off. I don't want it hanging out from underneath my leaf. Okay, so we're ready to start the leaf. And I'm going to pick a different one. Yep. Again, there's lines etched into the leaf so you can see which way you need to stitch, and you're starting in the middle, and it really doesn't matter which outside hole you start with. You're just going to work your way around and fill them all in. So tape off your knot in the back, and you can tape right over the hole in the center that you need to go through numerous times because the pointed end of your needle will crack through that really easily. Okay, so I'm going to start with a little bit on the top there. Again, pulling the thread through so that I can hold it on the back with my finger. And I'm just going to work my way around this leaf. I find that going slow really does help, especially when you're dealing with a long thread, because if you go really, really fast, if you happen to get it looping, then you're going to get a nasty knot in it, and it's going to mess up your stitching. Okay, and be careful you don't pull it too hard or you'll bend it like I just did. And it's nice to have the ink on one side. It gives a nice contrast in the color of your leaves, and it helps to add a little bit of shadow and depth to your finished flower when you glue it all together, which we will be doing next. Okay, I'm about halfway there. And I probably have enough thread on my needle right now that I could do 2 or 3 more leaves, but I think these are the last 2 pieces that I need to put my flowers together. So you've got a base with a stem, and you want to ink that up, and then there's a leaf cover for either side, and then there are, see, there's one of those little knots. And if I had pulled that really, really hard, it would have knotted Going slow, I got the opportunity to unravel it. Okay, so back to the flower. There's 4 pieces to the flower, and you're going to glue that to the top of the stem base point. Okay, so I'm finished my stitching. Again, I'm going to turn this over to the back, and I am going to tie off my knot, going through 3 or 4 of the stitches from the back, and then gently pulling it to a knot, and doing that a second time to finish my knot. Cut it off, leaving a small tail, and then secure it with another piece of tape. And you want to press those down good and hard. Make sure they stick. There we go. We have all our pieces ready to go. Start gluing these together. I'm going to be using Barely Art glue with the fine tip. And I am turning over my leaf on the back and adding large globs of glue all the way around and laying it down on the base. And I did do the ink blending on the base just in case the bottom showed through, that it would be the same color as the bottom of my leaves. Now, because these are lumpy, they've got 2 knots in the back of them from the thread. You need to hold on to these for a few minutes until the glue sets. So you want to have maybe some acrylic handles handy that you can lay on top of them, or like I'm doing, trying to have 5 hands at the same time, holding things down and trying to glue other things. I'm also trying to hurry up on this video, but as it stands, I usually held on to each piece for 2 or 3 minutes until the glue was set really, really well. And especially when you put this flower together, because that gold paper is very slippery and it takes a while for the glue to dry on it. So just a warning there. That slid around on me like crazy, and I kept having to adjust it, and I ended up, one of them's quite crooked. And you can see I have a finished flower on the left hand side up there, just so you can see what it looks like completed. Sorry, I'm a little bit out of camera here. I realize it in a second and push it up. So I've got 3 layers of the flower that are drying. And see, here I decide to hurry and, oh, maybe I can get this all done, but no. I went off camera for a couple of minutes and let it dry. So you need to add some glue to the back of this. Don't go all the way to the edges because we're going to offset this a little bit onto the background dark purple. And I have not stitched that one because you won't see the stitches by the time you layer it. You just kind of want the edge of the petals showing at the back. I had a little thread hanging out there that I also trimmed off. Then I'm going to add a pile of glue to the back of the base of the stem, and I'm going to add this flower to it. And so you have the opportunity here to have the flower angle, either way if you want to. I kind of left them straight up and down. If I was putting them both onto one card, I would have angled it a little bit to the left. I did 2 different card bases this time to showcase the flowers. I'm using the crisscross motif, which is the 3D embossing folder for November, and I also used the Postage edge rectangle, and it's the 2nd largest. That's going to be for one of my flowers. For the second one, I put a piece of the brushed gold on the back of the card front, and it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then again, I embossed the Raindrop card front with the 3D embossing folder club, the crisscross motif. I am using the Sending Sentiments clear stamp and die set. This is also November's club, and I'm going to use a couple of the sentiments. I'm going to gold emboss them onto the same color blue as my background because I don't want the white to be a direct contrast. If I did it in white or any other color, I want it to kind of fade into the background. So the backgrounds of both of these are very, very deeply embossed because it's a 3D embossing folder. So I'm using a ton of liquid glue on the back of my flower, and that will attach it to my card front for me. And then you want to grab an acrylic handle or something and lay it over top of that to push it down as much as possible so that it sticks to that highly embossed background. And I'm just going to pop some glue onto the sentiment and add it in the bottom left-hand corner. And then I'm going to cover this with acrylic blocks while I work on the other one. Pretty. I'm liking that. We're going to do the same thing with this one, but the flower is going to go in the other direction. So again, I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to add a whole bunch of glue on the back. And the reason I like to use the liquid glue is it doesn't set immediately. So if you decide that you don't like where you put it down, you do have a couple of minutes to adjust it. A couple seconds, actually. Okay, and I'm just trying to do kind of the top 2/3, filling it with the flower, leaving enough room for the sentiment in the bottom right-hand corner this time. Also doing it with the glue. And I am going to set that aside and put an acrylic handle over top of that one and let it dry as well. My final step is to do a little bit of embellishing, and I am using the Spellbinders Gold Smooth Discs. And I'm going to put, I think, 3 or 5 onto each one of these cards. And what this does is it helps to kind of move your eye around and pick up all of the pretty gold that is in the picture. And it just kind of ties everything together. I also like to use odd numbers of embellishments because I think they look nice that way. Okay, and I'm just going to use my embellishment tool. It has a little wax tip on the end of it, which is great for picking up these little shiny sequins so that I can add a little bit of glue underneath of them. And I'm just trying to offset them a little bit so they're not like across or up and down from each other. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing with the second card. So the directions and the cutting instructions for both of these backgrounds are over on my blog. You'll find a link to that underneath this video, along with a detailed description of everything that I have used today and affiliate links to where you can purchase them all. And I appreciate you using my affiliate links. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider giving me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe so that you get notified the next time I share another video on my channel. And here's a close-up of the pretty cards that we stitched today. Aren't they lovely? I just love gold stitching on cards. I think it's so elegant. And this die set is nice and easy for beginners because it's big. Okay, there you go. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, toodles!